You're listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, with service members from across the military sharing their stories of combat and survival. And now, here's your host, Mark Zeno.
Welcome into the Hazard Ground Podcast. Once again, we appreciate you joining us each and every week. Great to talk to you guys once again. Before we get started with this week's episode, a reminder about our new deal with Amazon. That's right, if you're an Amazon shopper, not only can you get everything you need that you normally buy on Amazon, but you can also help out a whole bunch of great veterans organizations like the ones we've featured here on the Hazard Ground Podcast. All you got to do when you want to do your Amazon shopping, instead of going to Amazon, go to our website, hazardground.com, click on the Amazon banner. A portion of everything you spend will come to us, and we are donating that directly to the organizations, the veterans organizations that we have featured here on this podcast. So it's a great way for you to get your shopping done and still be able to support veterans organizations. So again, go to our website, hazardground.com, and then click on the Amazon banner there. Do your shopping as normal, and you're supporting a bunch of great military veterans organizations. I want to remind you guys to follow us on all of our social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look up Hazard Ground. Reminder, we are on Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, a whole bunch of different places you can get us, as well as iTunes, where you need to leave a rating and a review and continue to support us with the podcast. On to this week's episode. Joining us this week is a retired Marine sergeant who had 3 tours in Vietnam. During his second tour, he was wounded 3 times and awarded the Silver Star over 40 years after his battle engagement. He is also a retired LAPD detective. And one more for you. He is right now up for the Medal of Honor. It is Joe Getherall here on the Hazard Ground Podcast. Joe, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Joe, just an incredible story, how you survived being wounded 3 times and in the process saved many lives of your teammates. Before we get to all that and what happened in Vietnam, we always like to start back at the beginning. Tell us how you got in the Marine Corps and eventually how you did get to Vietnam.
Well, I grew up in a housing project in South Boston, and I was a housing project rat. I was, a gang member, and I was also an excellent athlete, which saved me. And anyway, my parents moved to California when I was 16, which was a culture shock. And I refused to go to school. So the highest grade I ever went to was the 9th. I got my master's now, but anyway, they signed for me to go in the Marine Corps when I was 17. I always wanted to be a Marine. So I went in.
So your parents signed you up, or you signed up on your own?
I had to have parents' signature because I was only 17.
Right.
So I had to have their permission. So anyway, joined the Marine Corps at 17, and I went out here to San Diego, MCRD, and that was an experience because I had my Boston accent, which I've lost most of it, but I don't say car and park no more. So because I used to get beat in the Marine Corps because of my accent, so I lost that. I tried to lose that as quick as I could.
Now, when you signed up, though, what year was it? Because Vietnam had already kicked off, I assume.
January 1964. It was right after John F. Kennedy got assassinated.
Right.
He got assassinated in November, and so that was another reason why I wanted to go in the Marine Corps. It was January 1964.
So we were at the Vietnam conflict at that point in time. We hadn't escalated to like a full-blown war. Did any of that scare you, give you any sort of apprehension?
Oh, no. The Marine Corps, as you know, there's only one reason you join the Marine Corps, and that's to fight. I mean, there's no other reason, and they'll tell you that, too. There's no other reason to join the Marine Corps other than you want to fight. And that's it. You train to fight, and that's the reason. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I just, I wonder how much that played into your decision. I mean, again, all of this was right in front of you, much similar to people who sign up in the post 9/11 era. We all, kind of know that, hey, if you sign up now, there's a good chance you're going to end up in combat at some point in time. So, that kind of deters some people.
Well, I'm sure it does. But when you join the Marine Corps, anybody that volunteers for the Marine Corps knows that's why they join. They it's in their head. They want to fight. The Marine Corps. That's what they do, and and they'll tell you that's the reason for the Marine Corps. They want to fight. And when I was going through boot camp, they had Vietnamese officers that were going through boot camp at MCRD at that time. After graduating graduating boot camp in second ITR, now it's called School of Entry, SOI. But anyway, after that, my first duty station was Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. That's where 4th Marines were. And I was with Alpha 14. Got there probably in July 65. In October of 65, they were going to resurrect the Raiders. So the battalion, the battalion tried out, and they selected 36 of us for Raider training. And we went through Raider training, subs, and all that's blowing and going off subs. And we were called, the 36 of us were called, we were a Raider company. So, however, we never used it. In May of 65, we, 4th Marines, Alpha 1, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines, mounted up, and we left for Vietnam. We landed in Vietnam May 7th, 65 at Chu Lai. There was nothing there at Chu Lai at the time. And we got there, and the Seabees built the airstrip.
Gotcha.
After my first tour to Vietnam, I went back to Pendleton, and I was a weapons instructor at 2nd ITR. Again, it's called School of Infantry now. So I was a weapons instructor, and I wanted to go back to Vietnam.
Oh, wait, no, hold on a second. Before you get too far down the road here, let me stop you for just real quick. When you got to Vietnam the first time, excited, scared, worried, what were you thinking, feeling?
Well, it's funny because we, you have your steak dinner the night before, and the whole tradition of Marines. So we got on Amtrak's, and when we landed on the beach, we're thinking, we're apprehensive. Sure, everybody's scared. If you're not scared, you're stupid or crazy. So when we landed, you think you're John Wayne, landing. You get off and you do your zigzag and stuff. Well, when we get off, 9th Marines had landed a couple of months before that in Da Nang. So they were there to greet us, and there's big signs, like on banners, "Welcome Marines." So we weren't like Sands of Iwo Jima. We we had big banners, "Welcome Marines." It was hilarious. So that's when we got up back on the Amtrak's, and we went further in, and that's where the Seabees built the airstrip.
Now, in 65, real quick, in 65, I mean, what was the combat like? Because, look, you got to remember, chronologically, the heaviest fighting in Vietnam was 67, 68. That was the Tet. That was, Hue City. I mean, was the combat, day-to-day combat, heavy in 1965?
I'll tell you. When we first landed, we were told we could not chamber around, and we could not fire unless we were fired at. That was the rules of engagement. And August of 65, I'll never forget it. I'm at the airstrip. I did not participate in it. It was Operation Starlight. That was 2-4 participated in that, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines. And I'll never forget, we're at the airstrip, and the helicopters kept coming back with bodies and wounded. I mean, it was an eye opener. And that's where a friend of mine, Bob O'Malley, friend now, he wasn't a friend then. He was the first enlisted man to get the Medal of Honor, to receive the Medal of Honor, and it was Operation Starlight. And it was incredible. The helicopters kept coming back and back and back with bodies, and I mean, it was crazy. So that was an eye opener, and we were involved in some firefights. And Harvest Moon was the big one for us, and we lost a lot of people in that one. So 65 was just starting. It was pretty active, not like it was in 68.
Right.
But it was active.
When those helicopters are coming back with bodies of wounded and KIAs, and these are people did you stop and think, what the hell did I get myself into?
No. It was just it was like a holy crap moment. It's just this is the real deal. And we were involved in a couple of firefights before that, but nothing major. Snipers and stuff like that. But that was the very first big operation for any combat unit from the United States. After that was I-Train. That was the Army. But that was the first big combat. Was Starlight, Operation Starlight.
Did you feel like you guys? I don't. Overmatched isn't the right word. What were you unprepared for about Vietnam?
The carnage. Nothing can ever prepare you for the carnage, or when I don't care who you are, how tough you are. When you see your buddy, whether it's a gut shot or a head shot, nothing ever prepares you for that. What you're looking at.
Right.
And just so everybody, I don't care. Like I said, I don't care how tough they are. Everybody has PTSD. So something will trigger it. And there's people handle it different. But it's not how tough you are. That has nothing to do with it. It's just everybody's unique and everybody handles it a different way.
Yeah, it's been 40 years. How much of that still stays with you?
Well, it's been longer than that. I received my Silver Star. You want me to tell you a story about how this happened?
Well, we're going to get to the Silver Star. Hold on a second. I'm just kind of, I don't want to, for the audience sake, I want to kind of do things chronologically, but I just, now it's 50 years. Yeah, now that you think about it, I do the math. Yeah. It's over 50 years. Yeah. I mean, do a lot of these memories still resurface?
I went back this past February, March.
Wow.
The greatest Generations Fund.
Yeah, we know a lot about them.
That was the greatest fun. I mean, that organization is the best in the world. And they took me back, and it was like a 900-pound gorilla taking off my shoulders.
Everybody says, Joe, when you say that, I get chills because I've been 2 deployments in Iraq. I don't know what I would feel like going back. I don't know. I mean, take me through the gamut of emotions. I mean, it's everybody has said that we've talked to that has made this trip that it's the burden off your shoulders that all of a sudden you're at peace with everything.
Well, I was telling a story. They put me at the exact spot where I was wounded 2 times. We had a big battle, December 22nd, 1966.
Yeah, Joe, I guess at this point it's hard to hold off the Silver Star. So let's just fast forward to that because you get to your second tour, and December 22nd, 1966 is the date of your major engagement. So we can't hold it off any longer. Let's just kind of get to the details of that day.
Okay, so. I'm telling a story of that, and I want to go first. I'm going to go to the Greatest Generations Foundation, back up to
sure.
That night.
Okay.
So they put me in the exact spot where I was wounded the 2 times, and I'm telling the story of the battle, and I get to the point where I'm squad leader, and I'm bringing ammo and directing fire and stuff. We're under assault. We just come in. What they do is they mortar fire and then under assault. So I get to the point where I show up at one of my squad members' foxholes, and he's not there. I mean, I can't see him. And there's 2 VC just off to the side of the foxhole. And I dump them, and I get there, and he comes out of the hole, and I'll never forget the look on his face. And my nickname was the Iceman. And I lost when I was telling the story. I never forget the look on his face. It was like he thought he was dead, and I lost it, and I broke down. And I've never told that story before. Matter of fact, right after I received the Silver Star, this squad member was located. He wasn't located before that, and he told our platoon commander about this. So my platoon commander tells me that Sylvia just told me about this, and this is new evidence, and put you in for the Medal of Honor. And I said, well, I said, Gary, my lieutenant, I said, it didn't happen. He said, well, it happened. He said, it happened, and if he says it happened, it happened. This is honest to God. A year and a half later, December of 2008, I'm sitting in my family room. This is a year and a half after I received the Silver Star, and all of a sudden I'm back in Nam, and that incident come up to me. So I blocked that completely out of my mind. That was not even in the original Silver Star citation. That's why he recommended for the Medal of Honor.
Wow.
So that's incredible. I mean, honest to God. And so I was sitting in I called him right away. I said, Gary, it happened. He said, I knew it happened. He told me it happened. So it was crazy. I mean, it was really crazy. So I lost it. So I lost it. Now, getting back to the battle, what happened was we got come under heavy mortar fire. We ended up receiving like 200 rounds of mortar that night. But anyway, heavy mortar fire. And then I got hit with, this is crazy. I got hit with the very first round. I was just doing a regular check of my positions, and I had told them put concertina wire up and put rocks in sea ration cans, because I was one of the only ones in the company that had combat experience. So I get hit with the first round, and I was goofy, and the corpsman comes up, and he wants to shoot me up with warfare, and I said, no, get that away from me. So he bandaged me, and I got hit in both legs and in my arm. It fractured my arm. So, but when the adrenaline is running so much that you don't realize that. So right after he left me, we come under fire, and I'm going from position. I'm directing fire from position to position. Then things settle down. We come under another mortar attack, another assault, and there was a Marine. It was not in our squad. My hole was behind my squad. He goes down like off to the side between us. So I go out on the fight, and we're under heavy assault, and rounds kicking up all over. I go out, I pull him back to my hole, and then I kept directing fire, going back and forth. And then things settled down again. We come under mortar fire, and again later in the battle, we got illumination rounds. They go off, and I see a VC ready to throw a grenade, and I dump him, but he threw the grenade. And it looked like the old German grenades, but they were wood. They handmade it. They were wooden handles. The Chi-Com grenades were wooden handles. So he throws it and it lands like between two of my. And I yelled at them. I don't know if they heard me, so I go out and I jump on the grenade and I throw it. And just as I release it, it goes off and I get wounded again. So that's 2004. I'm jumping ahead now. I had no contact with my squad, my platoon commander, anybody for 30-something years. So 2004, I see there's a reunion of 3rd Battalion, 26th Marines. So I'm going to use my LAPD detective expertise, and I start to try to find my squad. My first person I find is my platoon commander. And I call him, and so we're talking. We talked for a half hour, 45 minutes. I joke when I said, I never received that Silver Star you put me in for. And I did not know at the time he really did put me in for Silver Star. I was just joking with him.
Oh, really?
so there was long pause on the phone. I said, Gary, he says, what do you mean you never received? He said, I put you in. And now I'm surprised because he actually put me in for the Silver Star. But he didn't know all the details at the time. He finds out later, piece by piece. So that was in April. He puts me in for the Silver Star. He writes everything. He says, get some, get as many guys as you can, get their affidavits. I get like 3 or 4 guys. They get their affidavits. In June, we have the reunion. At the reunion, 2 of the guys, he did not know about me jumping on the grenade. 2 of the guys tell him about me jumping on the grenade. So he rewrites everything. He thought he had to put me in for the Silver Star. He writes a letter, a 3 or 4 page letter that accompanied the personal award recommendation, the summary of action, and the citation. And in the letter, he says, I did not know all this. He deserves minimum Navy Cross. So that's when, and it comes back, Silver Star. And then they find Sylvia after that, and he finds out about me saving his life. So that's when he put me in for the Medal of Honor. But so that happened. I got the Silver Star and the 3rd Purple Heart in April 2007. So this Medal of Honor thing has been going on since December 2007.
Wow. Okay. There's so much to unpack here. So let's try to go through all this. Let me go back to when you said after your first deployment that you wanted to go back to Vietnam. Why?
Yeah, I took a stupid pill. What happened was, what happened was, there was a guy who got killed. He basically died in my arms, and so. At that time I drank, like most Marines, and every time I drink, that's why I counsel Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. and I tell them, do not drink because it's a depressant. And so that kept eating at me. So I wanted to go back. First day back was like 110 and 100% humidity. I'm saying to myself, what in the hell did you just do? So that's why I went back.
Okay. When you got back there, did you ever regret, prior to December 22nd, did you ever think, boy, this was a stupid decision?
No, because I had the squad, and being responsible for them. I never regretted going back. Because I was with them and I was protecting them.
How much more intense was the second deployment from a combat standpoint? Was it a lot heavier?
Yeah, much more.
How many firefights had you been in prior to December 22nd? I don't even know an exact number, just kind of, what was the tempo?
We had not been in that many firefights at all because we got there in early December. So we're at Dong Ha, and then we went to a place we took 6 guys to a place called Kobe Tonton. So we had not been involved in too many firefights at all.
When you went back with the Greatest Generations Foundation and you stood in that spot again where everything had happened, take me through all the emotions, or as many as you can recall, about being there. Does the smells come back? Do the sights come back? The sounds?
Everything. Like I said, when I got to the point telling the story about the battle, when I got to that point where I had dumped those 2 VC off to the side of Sylvia's foxhole, and when his head I thought he was dead, but because I hadn't seen him, and when he pops up, the look on his face just was so that's the emotion I got was everything that whole the whole battle come back to me, but seeing his face was just that's what I've been carrying around, thinking that him thinking that he was dead.
What about that were you carrying around? Like, you knew he was alive, right? I mean, you found out quickly after he was alive. So why did that stay with you?
I don't know. And it's just that's basic. And then I put it in the back of my mind, that whole thing. So I was carrying it around, but I didn't realize what I was carrying around. If you know, it's hard to explain, because I refused to believe that when Gary told me about that incident. I said it never happened. That's how much it affected me. So when I was on LAPD, when I was working patrol, I go through Chinatown. The smells would bring me back to now. It was a trigger. So I carried that burden around without realizing what it was. I did not know.
Sure.
I did not know what it was, and then so that's why it was so emotional telling the story when I got to that point.
When you look back on that day, what stands out to you the most? December 22nd, 1966.
Worst day of my life.
Really?
Absolutely the worst day
Why?
of my life. I cannot describe the chaos, the amount of fire that was going on. Rounds were kicking out. I mean, it was a major assault. We were outnumbered. They estimated later. My squad. Naturally, we had a platoon and company area, but just my squad. They come up. All the assaults were in front of my squad, and we were outnumbered 25-1. That's what they estimate. Because there was 50 bodies that they told me later, because I didn't go down, because I that morning they brought me up to the CP where the battalion aid station was, and I got medevac from there. But they told me there was 50 bodies there. Plus, they went down the hill. There was bandages, and so they drug a lot of weight too. So my squad had never been under fire before, never been in a firefight, and I can't even tell you how great they were at performing.
How many guys did you lose that day from your squad?
I'm sorry?
How many guys did you lose from your squad that day?
None.
Oh, really? Everybody survived?
We all survived.
Well, then, I mean, isn't that a happy ending, so to speak? Like, when you say it's the worst day of your life, I get it on one hand, but I was naturally thinking because some of your brothers were taken from you, and none of them were. That's not a happy ending there?
You know, like I said, the chaos that night was beyond belief, and I don't know. Like I said, I got hit with the very first mortar round. After that, it was like I was in a bubble because I could hear the rounds going by my head. I could actually hear them whizzing by, and they were kicking up all around. I don't know how I didn't get shot because I was almost never in the hole. I was directing fire, delivering ammo. So I was hardly in my hole at all during every assault, and so that's what I'm saying about the worst day of my life. It was crazy that night. It was just the chaos. It was crazy. I mean, it was honest to God. It was. So that's why I say it was the worst day of my life. It was just surviving.
Did you ever wonder why you never felt pain? I mean, you had 2 injuries in your legs and a broken arm. I mean, when does all that set in finally?
The next morning.
Yeah.
When they were gone, that's the truth. I felt tightness. I felt no pain. I felt like it was tight and stuff, but I felt no pain. I mean, that's what you're just running on adrenaline, strictly on adrenaline. And that's why you see people picking up cars. I mean,
right? Yeah.
Adrenaline.
So you finally get awarded the Silver Star over 40 years later. Any anger, angst about that? The way everything went down? No.
Matter of fact, it was probably even better because I was able to share it with my family. So I had no, everything happens for a reason. So I was able to share it with my family.
After your second deployment in 1966, you go back to Vietnam again.
Oh yeah.
What the hell is wrong with you?
I'm really not the sharpest tool in the shed.
I mean, is it fair to say your third deployment is more eventful than your first two?
In a way. I went back, I rehabbed in Okinawa, and I go to jump school at Sukaran. It's run by 1st SFG, Special Forces Group, and I go to jump school there. And so I'm rehabilitating. So I finagle my way back, and I end up with the 3rd Force Reconnaissance Company, and become a team leader. And so that was in late April, 67. And so in June, I come back off we come back off a patrol. There was only 4. You go on 4, we call 4 and 4, 4 men for 4 days. Some days were longer. But I come back, I gave a sit rep, and the major says, Bill Floyd, he says, Sergeant Getherall, he says, and he's got my SRB in front of him. He says, what the hell are you doing here? You're not supposed to be in country for, if you get wounded, you're hospitalized, more than 2 times. You're not supposed to be in country for, I think it's 2 or 3 years. So he says, you get your shit together. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
He says, you get your stuff together, and you get on the next plane, and you're going back to Okinawa. So at the time, I was pissed off, but looking back, I would have been killed. There's no doubt in my mind, because they lost a lot of guys, 3rd Force. So there was no doubt I would have been killed. But it was great because as it worked out, I met my wife. She's Okinawa. She's from Okinawa. She was a seamstress on base. She was a school teacher for 4 years, but I met her when she was a seamstress on base. So I was very, very lucky.
That's incredible. I mean, just not to get religious, but the Lord works in mysterious ways. You saved a life, and in theory, somebody saved yours.
Yeah, exactly. And from there, I was lucky. I had a GED. I got in Hawaii when I was in Hawaii. I got a GED, and I was very fortunate that I was able to join LAPD. I was one of the very first when they started SWAT. I was one of the very first original guys with SWAT. My wife, thank God, I was free as me. My both daughters had full rides. One at Cal State Northridge in softball, the other one at Florida State, and they're both All-Americans. And then my son, he was All-American in Notre Dame.
Wow.
5'7", 180, Joey Getherall. You can look it up. You can YouTube Joey Getherall and watch his return against Nebraska. And, so I went to SC, and he gets the scholarship to Notre Dame.
Oh, that set up a nice rivalry in the family.
Yeah. So I have no allegiance to USC, though. I wear my red dress and red high heels. I become a Hollywood streetwalker because Notre Dame pays for my kids' education. So I'm a Hollywood whore. Free as me.
Anecdotal question: what was tougher, the jungles of Vietnam or the streets of Los Angeles for 30 years?
I was lucky. The LAPD is. It's been so good, the retirement and stuff. But
yeah, but you were there during a really rough stretch, Joe. I mean, from 70 to the mid 90s, it wasn't easy. To me, the LAPD was just fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun. Now is for these kids now, it's really strange. And as it turns out, my son, Urban Meyer, is really good friends with my son. Oh wow!
They're like brothers. Really close, like close brothers. Honest to God, they talk to each other every week. And he wanted my son to coach with him, but my son went to Utah and spent a week and saw Urban spending 18 hours a day on the off season. So my son said, "Nah, that's not for me." So he went on LAPD.
Oh wow!
And and so my daughter was a Florida State daughter. She was a detective with LAPD.
Amazing.
And I have two sons-in-laws that were LAPD, so there's 5 of us.
Wow, that's unreal. Joe,
it's great.
You did the Greatest Generations trip and everything else, and, obviously, look at all the blessings your family has and wonderful children and a beautiful wife and all that thing. When you look back on everything, are you 100% at peace with the way everything in Vietnam went down in your life going forward, or there are some things that still trip you up?
No, for me personally, I'm totally at peace. Everything that happened, happened for a reason. I'm not thrilled at why we were there. The whole thing about the war, but for me personally, I'm totally at peace.
What's the latest with the Medal of Honor?
Right now, it's still being reviewed. That's a whole different bag. There's a colonel. There's a commander in our job who retired colonel, Keith Bushy, and there's a major general, Jim Williams, big black guy. I mean, he's huge and really super guy. And he was a Force Recon Marine also, but he was after Vietnam. And they're both. They wrote a complaint to the Department of Defense about the way things have been handled, and but it's still being reviewed. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know. They're trying to get Mattis to get eyes on. If Mattis gets eyes on, it's a done deal. But they're trying to get Mattis to get eyes on the. There's the whole binder. I had an attorney pro bono from Georgia that wanted to do my case pro bono.
Wow.
And he passed away. He was a Silver Star recipient from World War II, and he cried when he told me that the first time they refused. I actually cried when the first time they refused it, and so he put a lot of time into it. He had a binder. That day is incredible what he put together.
Joe, when you said earlier that you had talked to veterans now who have come back from the war on terror and everything else. When you see the way that veterans are treated now and the way you guys got treated when you came home from Vietnam, how do you feel? Is there any resentment or no?
Not resentment. Like back at the Gulf War.
Yeah.
Is that 90?
91, yeah.
Yeah. I'll never forget watching the news, and there was a parade at Oceanside for the Marines coming back. I got on the phone. I called Gary Marty, who's passed away since. He was the director of Force Recon Association. I said, Gary, you watching this? He says, Joe, he says, I know what you're going to say. He says, you're jealous. You're happy for them, but you're jealous. I said, that's exactly right. We got treated in the VA. I just talked to my son a couple of days ago about it. Went to the VA down in the downtown LA, and they pick a number, idiot, basically, and sit over there. And if they didn't get to you, you had to come back the next day.
Yep.
It was terrible. The way it was terrible. So now they treated. It's incredible what they have now. The support they have now. I mean, we had nothing. It was terrible. So I got 10% for 30-something years. All my wounds, and I found out why. They went 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. All the five the wounds, and if you don't go above 10, they stay at 10. So I got only 10% and I have 30-something pieces still in me.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible the way they treat you.
The unreal part of it, Joe, and I could speak to this from personal experience, for as good as we have it compared to speaking to you guys, the treatment now from the VA is still bad. It's still really bad. It is subpar, which only speaks to how little anybody gave a rip about you guys from Vietnam.
Well, you can't even imagine how they treated you. It was terrible. It was terrible. I look back, I go, that's why I never went back.
Right.
34 years, I never went back. And I was kind of forced to go back. And when I went back, real quick, the first doctor I had was a contract doctor. He walks in the room and said, "Good afternoon, sir." And I kind of looked around saying, "Are you talking to me?" "Good afternoon, sir. We never got that."
Right.
So, yeah, it was crazy.
Well, I will say this much, if it's any solace, guys like me who have worn a uniform for nearly 20 years and are still wearing it and still getting, treatment and everything else, we don't have what we have today without you guys. And the fact that things are better speaks to the fact that, thankfully, people realized the mistake they made with their veterans returning from Vietnam and weren't going to allow it to happen again. It's not a perfect system. There are a lot of flaws in it, but we're not being treated like you guys were. And that's because you guys had to bear the brunt of that for guys like me and all the veterans of the war on terror to be able to be treated so well, not only by the government, but by American citizens. Because American citizens weren't fond of you guys when you got back either. So for that, I speak on behalf of a lot of global war on terror veterans and say we thank you.
Yeah, I've had, matter of fact, it was last week. I think I was wearing, I think I had a Marine hat on, and I was at Chili's, and so went to pay the bill. She says, "No, it's already been taken care of." I said, "What?" So yeah, so stuff like that, it makes up for. Honest to God, I was that one that. Well, it's happened before, but when they say thank, I don't even think of. I lose all that animus and stuff. I just don't. I don't think about the bad. I think about that. Thank you means so much.
Well, Joe, look, I can't say anything other than I'm astounded and amazed by your story. I wish you luck with the Medal of Honor. I hope it comes through for you. You certainly deserve it. And congratulations on the Silver Star. That is more than well earned. And biggest thing, you got all your guys out alive. And to that, that is amazing. There are 9, 10 other, 12 other guys from your squad standing here today because of what you did, or lived long lives because of what you did.
Real quick, I told people don't understand. I told them that I have 7 sworn affidavits, and what they said in those affidavits mean a hell of a lot more than a medal. They, for them saying that I'm responsible for them, the affidavits, my son cried when he read them. But those mean more to me than any medal.
Well, I can understand that. I absolutely can. But for everything that you've done, again, thank you. And for everything that you now represent for all of us, I certainly appreciate it. I know we all do. It's an incredible story, and I hope everybody gets to hear it. Good luck with everything else. God bless, and certainly we thank you for being part of the Hazard Ground.
Mark, thanks a million. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Hazard Ground Podcast, hosted by Mark Zeno and produced by Matt Pasquarella. If you have an interesting story to tell and you'd like to be on the show, send us an email at hazardgroundpodcast@gmail.com. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.